A man was awakened by a clap of thunder. He laid in his bed, looking at the shadows cast in his darkened bedroom. He was looking at the mirror on his bedroom wall when suddenly a flash of lightning illuminated the room. The man was terrified. For a split second, he had seen faces staring at him from inside the mirror. Their eyes blackened, their mouths hanging open. Unsettled by the weird apparition, he was unable to sleep for the rest of the night. His mind kept replaying the memory of those disturbing faces staring at him intently. The next morning, he removed the mirror from the bedroom wall and locked it in a storage room. The next night, he slept like a baby. Days passed and the memory of those horrible faces began to fade. One morning he woke up and went into the bathroom to take a shower. He got out of the shower and was drying himself with a towel when he happened to look up at the bathroom mirror. The steam from the shower had fogged the mirror and revealed a message written in the moisture. Please return the mirror in your bedroom.
We miss watching you sleep at night.
A young girl is left home alone with only her dog to protect her. When night approaches, she locks all the doors and tries to lock all the windows, but one won't close. She decides to leave it unlocked and goes to bed. Her dog takes its customary place under her bed. In the deep of the night, she awakens to a dripping sound coming from the bathroom. The girl is too scared to go check it out, so she reaches her hand under the bed. She feels a reassuring leak from her dog and falls back to sleep. She reawakens to the dripping sound, reaches her hand down to the dog where she feels the reassuring leak, and falls back to sleep. Once more, she awakens to the dripping sound. She reaches her hand down and feels the leak of her dog. Now curious about the dripping sound, she gets up and slowly walks towards the bathroom. The dripping sound getting louder as she approaches. She reaches the bathroom and turns on the light. She is greeted by a horrific sight. Hanging from the shower nozzle is her dog, with its throat slit open and its blood dripping into the bathtub. Something on the bathroom mirror catches her eye. Written on the bathroom mirror in her dog's blood are the words,
Humans can lick too.
A group of teenagers went on a trip to the seaside. They found a cliff that overlooked the water and sat down to have a picnic. Afterwards, some of the teenagers decided to go for a swim. They took turns diving from the cliff into the water. One girl had brought her camera with her, and she began taking pictures of her friends as they jumped. One of the boys jumped off the cliff and landed in the sea with an enormous splash. His friends clapped and cheered, but when they peered over the cliff, they couldn't see him. The boy never surfaced, and his tearful friends had to call the police. A team of rescue workers eventually dragged the boy's body out of the sea. He had drowned. A week later, after attending the funeral, the dead boy's friends were looking through the photos they had taken that day. When they came to one picture in particular, they stopped and stared in horror. It was a photo of the drowned boy, taken just as he was about to hit the water after jumping off the cliff. Clearly visible in the photograph, coming out of the water, were countless pale, white hands, clutching the boy tightly and dragging him into the depths of the sea. On the last day of every month, close the blinds or curtains before you sleep. If in the middle of the night you hear a tapping noise at your window, don't open your eyes. If you're one of the unlucky ones, you'll hear that pebble sound at your window. It's not a friend. Just keep your eyes shut. The sound will get louder. The tapping will get faster and faster. Don't let your curiosity get the better of you. Don't move. It'll lose its patience. It'll start thumping the window. Your window will shake and shudder, and the noises will only get louder. It will furiously pound the window and shake everything. Don't worry, the window won't break, but for God's sake, don't open your eyes. No matter how scared you are, no matter how badly you want to scream, pretend like you don't hear it. Pretend you're still asleep. After a while, the noises will stop, but don't fall for it. Keep your eyes shut. Don't try to sleep, because if you do, the noises might return and you will wake up and open your eyes. You have to remain with your eyes shut without sleeping until the sun comes up. Those who do open their eyes, no one really knows what happened to them. Have you ever wondered about what happens when you die? Well, something does. Your body dies, but your conscience lives on. The night you die, you will be in an eternal dream. You will live that dream for all eternity, and it will be like reality. Whatever you dreamt the last night will be what you're going to be living in for eternity. And you will never wake up again in the comfort of your house. Let's just hope that you don't have a nightmare that last night. There is a special moment each leap year. At exactly 3 minutes past 3 a.m. on February 29, if you possess courage, wait that moment in a darkened room, completely alone. At that special moment, the darkness will deepen. If you were to raise your hand in front of your face, you wouldn't be able to see it. But you must not do that. Oh no, for that would be to waste the moment. Instead, you must reach out into the impenetrable darkness, and it will reach out to you. An unseen hand will grasp yours. You must not flinch away, nor tighten your grasp. To do so will only reveal more of the decrepit flesh that covers it, and thus angering its unseen owner. Remain perfectly still as the withered fingers move over your palm, tracing an unknown pattern. Do not move an inch as it crawls slowly up your arm, and more importantly, do not breathe as it caresses your face, touching what cannot be seen. You should remain still through this. The hand will be withdrawn and a voice will speak, so close to you that you will be able to feel its breath on your face, the smell of decay it carries. It will ask you for one simple piece of information. Answer truthfully, and the presence will vanish, leaving only a whisper in the wind as the darkness lifts.
It is done.
From that day on, untold fortune will be yours, as well as mysterious good luck. You will lack nothing, and have everything as you wish. But in a year, perhaps two if you're lucky, you will feel your skin beginning to decay, and smell the sweet scent of death upon your breath. Why don't you try this? I promise it won't be anything bad. Turn off the music, turn off the TV. If you have to, turn off your computer. Then go to another room and sit in total silence. Do you hear that? That ringing? People say it is your brain making up a sound to explain the silence. But those are lies. I can't tell you what is making that sound, but whatever it is, you don't want to meet him. It is trying to break through, force its way onto our plane of existence. Now try this. Repeat the first steps. Turn everything off. This time, turn the lights off as well. Still hear the ringing? Better hope you do, because if you don't, it means they have finally managed to break through. And no amount of running will save you. There is another universe, similar to ours, but not the same. Entrances to it are scattered throughout the world, in the places where the most psychological energy gathers. Schools, hospitals, those kinds of places. During any leap year, on February 28, this is the period of abnormal astral activity that opens those doors. At exactly midnight, the minute between the 28th and 29th, if you're lucky, or unlucky enough to be by one of those doors, it will open and call you. In this other universe, things are mostly the same, except all love and hate relationships are reversed. This means that your worst enemy in this world will be your lover. Your best friend hates you more than anyone else and will even look to harm you. It's a nice head trip, a good escape from reality. At least from the reality you know. So have fun. But remember, if you enter, you are stuck there until the next leap year. She lived in a small apartment with her husband and 2 dogs. Since the building was old and the walls were thin, every noise made in the entryway and living room could be heard from the bedroom. Late one night, she decided to go to bed while her husband took the dogs outside for their last walk of the day. After she went into the bedroom, she heard the jingle of the dogs' leashes and the opening and closing of the front door, with her husband leaving for the walk. Sometime later, as she started to doze off, she heard the front door open and close as her husband re-entered the apartment. She saw a small streak of light as he opened the bedroom door and then quietly closed it behind him. He silently climbed into bed and got under the covers. She murmured, "I love you, good night," and fell asleep before he could reply. A few moments later, she was awakened when she heard the front door open and close again. Then she heard the jingle of the dog's leashes and her husband's hushed voice. By the time that she realized that her husband was not in bed with her, she felt a cold hand caress her cheek, and a guttural voice finally replying, The memories I have with my grandmother are very fond. She used to live with my parents and me when I was about 6 and stayed with us until I went to college. She raised me on many wonderful things, such as spontaneous trips to the Natural History Museum, how to pick up flowers for every occasion, and even her own mother's secret recipe for the perfectly fluffy blueberry pancakes. Every Sunday, she would let me sleep in, but I would always wake up when I smelled those pancakes and heard her singing.
Are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
She would always come into my room with a short stack, and we'd share them before heading off to late morning service. And then we would spend the day together. Sunday has always been our day. So, it's my first Sunday back home after graduation, and I can smell those pancakes, and I can hear her singing in her worn and raspy southern accent, just faintly.
Are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
The only problem is, my grandmother died 2 weeks after I left for school, and her singing is getting closer.
Are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me skies are gray. You'll never know, dear. Eternal darkness.
A group of teenagers went hiking in the woods. 3 boys and 2 girls. They walked for miles and eventually they came to a clearing in the woods. There was a huge oak tree in the middle of the clearing and it was hollow. One of the boys looked into the hollow tree and saw something white at the bottom. He reached in and pulled it out. It was a note, and when he unfolded it he found, written in large red letters, the words, The teenagers laughed it off. They assumed someone had let in there to play a trick. It was getting late, and the sun was going down, so they decided to set up camp in the clearing. They pitched their tents and built a fire to cook some food. That night, one of the boys stayed up to keep watch while the other 4 went to sleep. In the morning, when they woke up, they found that the fire had gone out and their friend was nowhere to be seen. They couldn't understand why he would wander off. Then, one of the girls noticed something high up in the branches of the hollow tree. There was a big leather bag, and its handles were tangled in the branches. It was too high up, any of them to reach. On the second night, another boy stayed up to keep watch while the other 3 went to sleep. In the morning, the fire was out, and the boy had disappeared as well. The other 3 began to get worried. On the third night, one of the girls stayed up to keep watch, and the other 2 went to sleep. In the morning, the fire was out, and the girl had disappeared as well. The 2 teenagers who were left were very scared. They stayed by the tent and wondered what they should do. After a while, a forest ranger came by, and the teenagers called out to him. They explained that their friends had gone missing, and told him about the bag that was hanging in the tree. The forest ranger grabbed his rifle, took aim at the bag, and pulled the trigger. The bullet ripped through the handles, and the bag fell to the ground. When they opened the bag, they were horrified with what they had found. Inside were the severed heads of their missing friends. There was an 18-year-old girl named Diana, who was in her first year at college. She lived alone in a small apartment near her university. One night, she was washing her dishes after dinner when her phone suddenly started ringing. She picked it up and saw by the caller ID that it was her friend, Peter.
Hey Pete, what's up?
She asked.
Not much. I'm bored, and I thought I'd see if you wanted to hang out.
Sure,
said Diana.
come on over. We can watch a movie or something.
Cool, I'll be over in 15 or 20 minutes.
He said cheerfully. She hung up the phone and decided to take a shower before her friend arrived. About 10 minutes later, she was in the middle of shampooing her hair when she heard a loud knock on her front door. Sticking her head out of the shower, she shouted.
Come in, it's open.
A few minutes later, the banging on the door started again. She stuck her head out again.
Hey, it's not locked. Just let yourself in.
She cried. Just then, her phone rang. It was Peter. She answered it and said, in an irritated voice,
I'm in the shower. Why don't you stop knocking and just come in?
On the other end of the line, her friend's voice was hushed and urgent.
Don't open the door!
Diana was shocked.
Why not?
I'm outside your apartment building.
He whispered.
I just saw a strange woman going up the stairs to your apartment. She was crawling on all fours.
During a wedding reception of a young couple, the guests decided on a drunken game of hide and seek. It was decided that the groom was it, and he eventually found everyone but his new bride. Eventually, the man became furious and decided that it wasn't funny anymore, and left her there. As weeks went by, he accepted that she'd had second thoughts and went on with her life, so he did the same. He thought the bride ran away. A few years later, a cleaning lady dusted off an old trunk in the attic of the building where the reception had taken place. Out of curiosity, she opened it. Inside the trunk was the rotted body of the missing bride, who'd apparently became locked in the trunk while she was hiding. Whether she'd suffocated or starved was unknown, but her face was frozen in a scream, and there were scratches inside the trunk. You are home alone, and you hear on the news about the profile of a murderer who is on the loose. You look out the sliding glass doors to your backyard, and you notice a man is standing out in the snow. He fits the profile of the murderer exactly, and he is smiling at you. You gulp, picking up the phone to your right and dialing 911. You look back out the glass as you press the phone to your ear, and notice he is much closer to you now. You then drop the phone in shock. There are no footprints in the snow. It's his reflection you're seeing.
It was late at night. A couple was traveling on by car when at a far distance they saw a woman in the middle of the road, waving frantically. The wife told her husband to keep on driving because it might be too dangerous. But the husband decided to pass by slowly so he wouldn't stay with the doubt on his mind of what might have happened and the chances of anyone being hurt. As they got closer, they noticed a woman with cuts and bruises on her face as well as on her arms. They then decided to stop and see if they could be of any help. The woman was begging for help, telling them that she had been in a terrible car accident, and her husband and son, a newborn baby, were still inside the car, which was in a deep ditch. She told them that the husband was already dead, but her baby seemed to still be alive. The husband that was struggling decided to get down and try to rescue the baby, and he asked the hurt woman to stay with his wife inside their car. When he got down, he noticed two people in the front seats of the car, but he didn't pay any attention to it, and took out the baby quickly and got him into his car. When he got up, he didn't see the mother anywhere, so he asked his wife where she had gone. She told him that the woman followed him back to the crashed car. When the husband went back to look for her, he noticed that clearly the couple in the front seats were dead, one of whom was unmistakably the woman who flagged them down.
One day, a boy was sitting in his classroom in school. He was extremely bored and was waiting for the school bell to ring. When he looked out the window, something caught his eye. There was a photograph lying on the grass outside. When school was over, he ran outside and picked up the photograph before anyone else had the chance to see it. Turning it over in his hands, he realized it was a picture of an incredibly beautiful girl. She was wearing a white top, black skirt, black ties, and black shoes. And for some reason, she was holding up two fingers. The girl was so pretty that he wanted to meet her. He showed the photograph to everyone in school and asked if anybody knew her. Fortunately, nobody recognized her. That night, when he went to bed, he placed the photo on his bedside table and went to sleep. Around midnight, he woke up. There was something tapping on his window. Then he heard what sounded like someone giggling. More than a little frightened, he worked up the courage to investigate it. He jumped out of bed, went over to the window and opened it. There was nothing there. The next day, he showed the photo to his friends and neighbors and asked if they knew this mysterious girl. Everybody he asked said that they had never seen the girl before. That night, as he was laying in bed, he heard the tapping sound again. He looked out the window and could just make out a figure standing on the other side of the street. He couldn't be sure, but it looked like the mysterious girl in the photograph. Clutching the picture tightly, he threw on his clothes and raced downstairs and out the front door. As he crossed the road, he forgot to look both ways and was suddenly hit by a car. The driver got out of the car and ran over to help the boy, but it was no use. The boy had been killed on the impact. The driver noticed something clutched in the boy's hands. It was a photograph. Turning it over in his hands, the driver realized it was a picture of an incredibly beautiful girl. She was wearing a white top, black skirt, black ties, and black shoes. And for some reason, she was holding up 3 fingers. There was a very famous author named David, who had written quite a few best-selling horror novels. All of the literary critics praised his talent for plot twists and surprise endings. He received a large amount of fan mail every day, and some budding authors even sent him manuscripts in hopes that he would help them get their work published. While David took pleasure in responding to letters from his fans, he took even more pleasure in stealing the ideas of amateur writers. If he came across a manuscript with a great idea for a scary story, he would use it in one of his own books and deny the author the credit. Then, in order to hide his theft, he pulled some strings with his friends in the publishing industry to make sure that the original author never got anything published in the future. One day, David received a new manuscript in the mail. It was bound in a beautiful hardcover book. He read the first chapter and felt that he knew how the story would end. As he continued reading, he became more and more certain that he could guess the twist ending. It was growing late, but he wanted to finish reading the manuscript to see whether or not he was right. When David came to the final chapter, he realized that the last few pages of the book were stuck together. Anxious to read further, he pulled the pages apart. He felt increasingly tired but still kept reading. Finally, he came to the end of the book. It was exactly the twist ending he had anticipated. The husband had hanged himself just as his wife was committing suicide in the next room. David made a mental note to steal the idea and use it in his next story. Just then, he noticed that after the words "the end," there was a little handwritten comment from the author. It read, "I already know that you are planning to steal the ideas on this story. I know because you did the exact same thing to me the last time I sent you my manuscript. You published it under your own name and didn't give me any credit. You ripped me off and blacklisted me in the industry. Nobody will accept my novels anymore, and I will never again be able to publish anything I write. You have ruined my life, and now I am going to have my revenge." You had to pull apart the back pages in order to read this, didn't you? Well, those pages contain a poison, arsenic to be precise. Are you feeling tired? That is normal. It's one of the symptoms of arsenic poisoning. Soon, your heartbeat will get slower and slower until it eventually stops permanently. Don't bother trying to call an ambulance. You will be dead before they arrive. You have already been exposed for too long. Goodbye, David. Some twist endings can be very hard to predict. There was a 15-year-old girl named Chloe who created an account on Instagram. She always took pictures of herself at school and at home and posted them online. Chloe spent a lot of time trying to get as many followers as possible on her profile. She would browse through other users' accounts and leave a comment on their photos saying, "Please follow me. I follow back." One day, when she was looking for new followers, she came across a strange profile. It was a man who took pictures of dismembered dolls. He never showed his face in any of the photos. As usual, Chloe left a comment on his photos. "Please follow me. I follow back." An hour later, the man followed her account. He left a comment on her latest photo saying, "I'm following you." Whenever she posted a new photo, he would always leave the same comment, "I am following you." She never understood it, but she didn't care. Chloe was obsessed with gathering as many followers as possible and getting as many likes as she could on her pictures. One night, when her parents had gone to the supermarket, Chloe got a picture sent to her Instagram account. When she opened the photo, she realized that it was a picture of her sitting on her bed. All of a sudden, she was paralyzed by fear, and she began to feel a terrible chill take over her body. She heard footsteps approaching, and a gravely voice behind her said,
I'm following you.
One evening, a young woman named Betty was home alone when she heard a knock at the front door. She opened it and found a young man standing there on the doorstep. He told her that his car had broken down and asked if he could come in and make a call because his cell phone battery had run out. Betty was a friendly young woman and she agreed to help him. After he made his call, she offered him a drink. They sat down in the living room and began to discuss anything and everything. Their conversation continued long into the night. As it was getting late, Betty yawned and told the young man that it was probably time for him to go home. However, he ignored her and continued to talk about his passion for movies. He listed all the movies he had seen recently and asked her opinion about them. He continued to talk and brought up the subject of video nasties. Betty didn't know what the term meant. He explained that a video nasty was a film in which a person was actually murdered. No special effects, no camera tricks. Everything was real. Betty began to get a little creeped out and explained that she had been terrified when she watched one particular movie. It was the morbid story of a young woman who was trapped by 3 psychopaths who left the camera running as they killed her and chopped her up. The man began to talk more and more about video nasties, and the longer he spoke, the more uneasy she became. While he was talking, Betty's attention was suddenly drawn by a peculiar red glow under the jacket of her guest. Her face grew pale when she realized it was the unmistakable red light of a camera that was recording. "20 years ago, there was a young girl who was a talented ballet dancer. Her mother was very proud of her and had ambitions that, someday, her daughter would become a famous ballerina. However, the girl's hopes of a bright future were dashed when she was diagnosed with terminal illness. The doctors told her she had less than a year to live. As months went by, her mother tried to make her as comfortable as possible, But the girl's condition worsened. Soon, she was unable to walk or even stand and had to spend most of her time laying in bed. One night, the mother was downstairs watching television when she heard bumping noises coming from her daughter's room. She raced up the stairs, opened the bedroom door, and was shocked to see that her sickly daughter was out of her bed and moving around. Not only that, her daughter was jumping and dancing around the room, just like she had when she was healthy. The mother watched in delight as the young girl performed leaps and pirouettes. She grabbed the camera and started taking photos of her beloved ballet girl. Marveling at her daughter's miraculous recovery, the mother snapped picture after picture until the camera was out of film. In the end, the girl finished in an arabesque position. The mother gave her a round of applause, but when she looked at her daughter's face, she suddenly stopped clapping. The girl's eyes were rolled back in her head and her face was deathly pale. Suddenly, she keeled over and collapsed in a heap on the bedroom floor. The ballet girl was rushed to hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The doctors said that the ballet dancing had been too much for her weak heart to withstand. She had literally danced herself to death. The mother was inconsolable. After the funeral, the mother took the pictures to be revealed. When she got them back, she flipped through the photos, remembering that last happy moment when her daughter had danced so beautifully. Suddenly, her hands started shaking and a scream died in her throat. The photographs fell to the floor and she collapsed. The pictures revealed that the entire time her daughter was performing the ballet moves, there was a ghostly green hand clutching her by the head and pulling her back and forth, forcing her to dance. When a little girl's cat had kittens, they disappeared. After a couple of days, she asked her mother what happened to them, and her mother said, "God took them." Months later, the cat again had a litter of kittens. Her mother sent her out to run some errands, but before she left, she wanted to play with the kittens again. She heard her father coming, carrying a bucket, and she hid from him. She watched while her father put the kittens in a sack and drowned them in the bucket. Later, the girl again asked her mother what happened to the kittens. Her mother said again, "God took them." Several days later, the mother asked the girl to watch her brother in the bathtub while she answered the phone. When the mother returned, she started screaming. The baby was upside down the tub and was not moving at all. "What happened to him? What happened to him?" The little girl standing there vividly said, "God took him." A young woman was walking down the street when she saw an old blind man coming towards her. He was stooped over and wore dark glasses and a cane. He seemed to be having trouble walking, and when he was passing by her, he almost fell over. She grabbed his arm and helped him keep his balance. He thanked her for her kindness. Then he asked the young woman if she could do a favor for him. "Could you please deliver this letter for me?" The blind man said. "I am old and disabled, and I have a terrible time finding my way around the city." Being a nice person, the girl agreed to help him, and he handed her a letter with an address scrawled on the front. As the young woman turned to walk away, she happened to glance back and saw the blind man walking down the street quite quickly, with his cane tucked under his arm. Then, to her surprise, the blind man took off his dark glasses and casually tossed them into the garbage. Suspicious, the woman took the envelope to a nearby police station. The police went to the address on the letter, which turned out to be a butcher shop owned by an old couple. All seemed perfectly ordinary until the police asked the old couple to open the large refrigerator in the back of the shop. Surprised, the old couple refused to do so, so the police had to break it open. Inside, they were confronted by a horrible scene. There were dead bodies strung up on meat hooks and shelves stacked high with chunks of human flesh. Until now, the police had overlooked the letter which the mysterious blind man had given the woman. When they opened the envelope, a piece of paper inside contained one chilling line. "This is the last one I'm sending you today." The police are still looking for the supposedly blind man, but he's nowhere to be found. One evening, a woman came home late from work. She put her hand back down on the kitchen table and started rooting through it. Then she realized she didn't have her mobile phone with her. She couldn't remember the last time she had it. "I must have lost it on the way home," she thought to herself. She went into the hallway, picked up her home phone, and dialed the number of her mobile. The phone rang for a long time, and then someone picked up, but they didn't say anything. "Hello?" said the woman. There was no answer, but she could hear someone breathing on the other end. "Hello? Can you hear me?" she said. There was still no answer, but the breathing got heavier. "Hello? Can you hear me?" the woman asked again. Then, in a low voice, the person on the other end said,
I hear you.
Then they hung up. After that, the woman kept calling her mobile, but nobody picked up. Eventually, she gave up in frustration. It was late and she decided to go to bed. When she went upstairs to her bedroom, she was shocked to see her mobile phone sitting on her nightstand. It was on silent mode.
I hear you. Can you hear me now?
It was her eyes that first attracted me to her. I didn't believe in love, but the first time I gazed into her beautiful green eyes, I knew she was the one. I loved seeing myself reflected in those eyes, looking deep into her soul and knowing I was part of it. It's kinda stupid, but I even wrote poetry about them. I don't remember much, but I told her, "There's so much life within your eyes, and so much love. Oh God, I loved the way the light danced within them. I just couldn't imagine not being able to stare dreamingly into them. Now, if I could just find a box that was half as beautiful as her eyes, I could finally stop carrying them around in my pocket. In Mexico, there was a small town that had a population of less than 500 people. It was the kind of small town where everyone knew everyone else by the name, and everybody knew everybody else's business. In this town, two young boys who were twin brothers lived. Their mother never disciplined them, and the two boys were constantly misbehaving. Everyone in town knew of them, and they were nicknamed the Evil Twins, because they were always the cause of everything bad that happened there. They were even suspected of killing some of the cats and dogs in the village, but the police could never prove it. One Sunday, an old man died in his home. While the priest and the undertaker were outside, waiting to transport the body to the cemetery, the twins peeked in the back window. When they saw the corpse, they immediately wanted to take a closer look. The twin boys didn't care about disturbing the dead, so they broke into the house and started playing around with the corpse. One of the boys moved its mouth like a puppet, while the other poked its eyes out with a stick. While they were playing, the twins heard footsteps. Afraid of getting caught, they put the corpse back in the coffin, but they couldn't find a place to hide. Just as the priest was opening the door, the boys jumped into the coffin with the dead body and closed the lid. The priest and the pallbearers carried the coffin to the cemetery where the funeral was being held. They noticed that the coffin was heavier than usual, but never bothered to look inside. Nobody realized that the twins were missing until the coffin was being lowered into the grave. That's when the mother of the twin boys appeared at the cemetery and asked if anyone had seen them. The funeral was halted, and all the people began searching the area. Some of the men recalled the weight of the coffin while they were carrying it, and said that the boys might have hidden inside. The coffin was lifted out of the grave, and the men opened the lid. Inside, they found the twin boys lying on top of the dead man. The hands of the corpse were tied around their throats. They had both been strangled to death.